Oh, it says. That's that clock is slow. All right, I'd like to call the planning commission Wednesday, November 19th, 2025. Regular meeting in City Hall Community Room. Roll call.
Beckman, present. Reed,
Present.
Kronberg,
Present.
Meridian,
Here.
Moss,
Here.
Newman,
Here.
Robson,
Present.
Smith,
Here.
Wilmot.
Yes.
All right, approval of the minutes for October 15th, 2025.
I have a question. One of my duties as vice chairperson is to review the minutes. And I had a question on page 2 under loss of Lumber Square. And Christine, who formalizes these, even went back and re-listened to the tape. And this is how it came out. It's paragraph 2 under loss of Lumber Square. Commissioner is asking for clarification regarding screening on the south side of the building, a ring barrier. I wasn't sure what the reference to the term ring barrier was. And when she went back and listened to the tape, she said, well, that seems like what it is actually saying. So I don't remember who might have raised that question. And if you remember what you might be thinking about that, of that term, what that applies to. Removed due to lighting.
I suggest we just delete it.
Well, I do recall there was a section, they had to enlarge the area around the dumpster enclosure, and they may have shifted things because of that back in that area. But nothing about a ring there.
The ring of lighting, maybe,
Doesn't make
the
any
way
sense.
the light would hit the pavement or whatever. Yeah, I just couldn't make any sense of it. And I couldn't remember any comment that anybody had made.
Well, they're asking about screening on the south side. Is that because of, due to lighting? They were concerned about lighting? Let's just leave it on the south side of the building, period. And get rid of everything else. Is that all right?
That's fine with me, or unless somebody knows otherwise.
Rich?
Was there some kind of conflict with Elder Piper there? Is that where it's located?
No.
That would be.
No, I think whatever it was, it's not helpful in the notes like that.
I agree with that.
Other than that, I'll move that the minutes be included. Or with that clarification. Second.
All right, Rick made the motion, Carly did the second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Everyone approved. Now time for public comment of something that's not on the agenda tonight. Is there anybody here who would like to speak at this time? Anyone online?
Just let her in.
Okay, well, let's move on. Let's move on to the public hearing for the proposed outdoor lighting ordinance appendix B. You were provided on your desk a new ordinance. It's actually version 8. Version 7 was accidentally sent in our packets. It should have been version 8. There's some minor changes.
So the one in the packet is
Null and void.
Version
It's
8,
recyclable.
Yeah,
version 8 includes the comments, the suggestions that were made at last month's meeting.
right.
So
And they're minor corrections that aren't worth pointing out. But just, grab that one for special purposes. All right, I open the public hearing for the proposed outdoor lighting ordinance appendix D. And I think everybody here knows the rules for public comments, so we'll just move on to opening it up. Does anybody have any comment? Hey, Kate?
Hi, you need name and address? For this?
Yes?
Yeah.
I thought. we
Kate
were-
Marshall, 1015 East Mitchell. I don't know if you changed this, but I did notice when I saw the packet that the seasonal lighting started November 1st and went till January 15th.
Actually, that was one of the important changes that were made, and it,
Included Halloween, that's my question.
It does.
Included light or okay.
right,
So
it's October first through February 28th.
what's changed?
Yeah, and we extended the, you know, what would be expected Christmas holidays, because I know that the downtown keeps those longer than the new year. So we figured that was enough time
And
for
got
everybody.
back up in fall.
And then residential, when do you, many of us leave our lights on all night? Is that allowed still or not?
If it's any historic.
If it's in the historic district, is it allowed all night?
Mhm.
Okay, then it will be allowed all night if you're in the historic district. So how do you determine that?
They need to be shrouded though. Well,
It's an exemption.
Well, not Christmas, okay, let me read it.
what are you talking about, the Christmas holiday?
We're talking about holiday.
Oh,
So exceptions or exemptions, one of the exemptions is seasonal. Seasonal lighting used from October 1 through February 28. And then if you look in the definitions. It's seasonal lighting. And it's outdoor site lighting that is portable, temporary, decorative, and used in connection with holidays and traditions. This includes, but is not limited to, string lighting, icicle lighting, and lighted inflatables, none of which are intended for general illumination. Yep,
Is it true it's only in historic district? Because I know that a lot of neighborhoods.
Section 3.2.
Right.
C has exemptions which state that luminaries replicating the time period, historical character, and lighting effect that are protected by historical registration or otherwise permitted by the city of Petoskey's Historic District Commission or other authority having jurisdiction. Other lights would have to be turned off at 11 o'clock or by motion detector or sensor.
I'm sorry, doesn't E explain that for the seasonal though? That is the
Seasonal?
exception for any district?
I would think it would be any district.
Yeah.
The historic is talking about mounted lights that, you know, aren't properly shaded or shielded.
Sure.
So I think that's what historic refers to.
Yeah.
Seasonal is for the whole city.
Yes, it is.
That's citywide.
Yeah, seasonal city.
Yeah.
It is even
Okay.
clear that one residential district.
So can I-
Red.
We have to turn here though.
Just a point of clarification, it seemed like the question was about a residence where they leave their lights on all night.
Mhm.
And the answer is, if you're in the historic district, you can leave your lights on all night.
Mhm.
That doesn't seem fair. to
No,
a
and
house
we
that's not in the
established
historic
that-
district.
Because sometimes the historical lighting in historic districts are unshielded. Like the old fashioned gas lights.
Well, I understand that,
That's the exemption for it.
but that isn't necessarily the light that's on all night.
No, may not be. But if you have a historic, like a chandelier in some of the old porches have chandeliers. Those can't be shielded, so there is an exemption for those.
It still doesn't seem right that you could have a light on all night if your house is historic, but if you're not, you can't.
You can still have it on all night, I believe is what it says, but it has to be shaded.
Shaded.
So it has to be down only, it can't overcast on a neighboring property.
Correct, yes.
All right, so
But there are some situations on historic properties where you can't shield
It can
it,
just be a glow.
and that's the exemption.
right, but when it comes to seasonal lights,
You can have those all the time.
right? But we have a rule that if you have lights, they have to be turned off. So does the seasonal lights, they're also exempt from the curfew?
So that's the way it's.
Right. Right, and that's how I understood it. But do we need to make that clear in
No, I
here?
think it's fine. It
Okay,
says seasonal lights.
so Reg, seasonal lights are exempt from,
But he wasn't talking, he was talking about a front porch.
Yeah, I'm just talking about for a backyard.
A back.
Right,
right,
Well,
Because, and the reason I say that is because there were a couple of comments in our character survey that complained about lights shining into neighbors'
right,
areas and that,
If it goes over the property line, then you are subject to a fine.
Or you're subject to.
Shielding.
Code enforcement, yes.
okay,
But if you leave it on all night and it's your front porch light and it's not going over into other people's property, nobody's gonna touch it.
right, I guess I still sense a level of ambiguity here, but
yeah.
I can move on.
Yeah, that doesn't sound clear because we've got issues with people behind us keeping lights on the backside of their house all night, and it's very annoying.
Mhm.
Then that
And I
comes,
feel it.
then that would be about, you can report that as a violation and the code enforcer would pay them a visit.
Okay.
So
and
it's just
explains
kind of-
about the it has to end at the property line. It can only be 1 foot candle at the property line, 1/10 of a foot candle.
I understand why they want to leave it on all night, but it's not shielded.
Right. Well, if it's historical, then I don't, that might be a problem, but
I don't think it is.
I think
I don't think you're gonna find a historical going over into somebody else's property, not typically. No.
okay,
It's usually a little gas light or something.
right, like,
all right.
Okay.
Did I close the public
No,
meeting?
you didn't.
Do you have any comments? Okay, so I'm gonna close the public meeting and get carried away
should we read the letter
in the public hearing.
regarding?
Oh, I can do that. So this is from Mark Tarkini, about 1040 Hoffman Street. And he writes, I am unable to attend the planning commission meeting tonight, but I wanted to share my thoughts on the proposed lighting ordinance. I prefer that section F spectrum use 2700K as the maximum allowable CCT for outdoor luminaires instead of 3000K. You want to give the explanation for that?
Well, I can. I sent out a web link for people to educate themselves before the meeting. The difference between 2700 and 3000 is 2700 starts getting into the yellow hues. 3000 is neutral, and then anything above 3000 starts getting into the brighter white. So 3000 is kind of the sweet spot. And the other reason for the 3000, and it's dark sky recognizes it, is that when you start getting into the yellow lights, especially in retail areas, color renditioning is a problem. And then also security and safety is a perceived issue. So that's why 3000 is usually the middle point, because it's a neutral light. It's not yellow and it's not highly white. So that's the difference. Now, if you think 300 is different, you take a look at the color scale, you can see that 2700 starts moving into the yellow band of lighting. So that's the difference. I would recommend that we stay with 3000, which is right in the middle. And it's a neutral light.
That's kind of where the dark sky.
That's dark sky.
The dark sky sample is.
All right,
I just had a question about it. Do we know what the, oh, go ahead.
I would like to close the public hearing now.
Okay.
And then I'm bringing it back to the table for planning commission discussion. Okay, Rich.
So the example of residential street lighting, what are those rated at?
You know, I don't know what the city is currently using for street lighting, but in the future, the city will have to follow this as well. I know that the proposed lighting for the Jimmy John's is 3000 lumens. Because we gave them the proposed ordinance and said, use this as your targets. So we'll see when that'll probably be our first example of what a 3000 lumen light looks like in a commercial parking lot. We'd have to take a meter, we'd have to take a lighting meter underneath some of the streets to find out exactly what the lumens are. But I can't answer that question.
What our city manager.
Pretty bright.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't catch your question, Rich.
I was wondering what the limits were for street lighting.
Newer style LED.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that either, but I can try to get that for you.
Albert?
At the last meeting, I brought up, the LZ2 versus LZ3. I was told that because it's the entry to the city, that the B3 zones were, at the higher level. And that is true for B3, B and B3. B3A, which is, it's not on this map, but I can still describe it to you. It's that corner of Sheridan and, 131, where the old American Best Hotel was. And then it's the properties from the Southwoods Restaurant down to the Days Inn. Very small area. That area, has in it, it basically has, it has a restaurant, it has 2 hotels. It has, the rest is basically office buildings. There's a little bit of B3A that runs down Lawrence Street that has some home office kind of it. When we look at what LZ2 is in the other areas, so if you look at LZ2, it's B1, B2, B2B office, hospital, parking areas, I forgot what C was. But those are all very similar. The property that you have as LZ2 is very similar use property. I know it's zoned differently, but it's very, the use of the properties in LZ2 is very similar to what we're seeing in B3A. You were talking about light trespass, that's been a huge issue in the neighborhood. And I am talking about my neighborhood, so I don't know. I'd like to make a motion if I could, that, and you guys could decide to support it, so we could at least discuss it, that, what's in that zoning district, current zoning district B3A be moved to the LZ2 area. So if somebody would second that one, if somebody feels second that, then we could discuss it.
Well, I'll second it for the purpose of discussion.
Rick, do you have any?
Well, I guess my question is, it is the 131 corridor, the Spring Street corridor, right, which is a main drag into town, like 31 coming from the west.
But look how much is green on the entrance. There's 2 PUDs there, which that's a question further down the line, but there's two PUDs there that are, I don't know what they're going to be for areas. So if you still get the entry to the city right past Days Inn, you get the brighter lights. That's where the gas station is, was one of the concerns that was voiced last week. But up until there, you're kind of in a mixed area, and the of the 18 properties in that district, the whole 18, it's a very small district. There's 18 properties in there. Of those 18, all of them share at least one, and some share 2 property lines with a residence. So just because of the transition, I think my personal opinion that it's more appropriate for that part of town. And if a hospital is okay with level 2, and there's several other properties in there in the green zone that are at the lower level. There's offices in that area that would be the office area. They're all very similar use property. As in, they're not being used, we're not talking gas stations, we're not talking those types of things. So.
Well, what's the high ambient lighting levels that are in LZ3?
LZ3 is,
the purpose of those is, visibility.
Right.
At higher speeds, I presume, and
Right.
just because of higher volume of traffic on the busy streets.
Right. If you look though from the Bayview entrance to town, other than right at, right, even Killen's is not in that area.
I agree with you that ideally that, you know, the LZ2 zone would sort of come between
Right.
1 and 3
Right.
as a buffer kind of treatment. That would be ideal.
And again, if the one more idea is if the whole idea is to keep Petoskey dims, especially from the bay and from. When you're looking at Petoskey from the bay or the waterfront, you're looking right at 131. You know, I spend at least 2 days a weekend in Harbor Springs seeing my mom at Bay Bluffs, and when you look to Petoskey, you see 131. So if we're trying to keep the light down, if that's the goal, take it that, at least the hilly part, you know, by the time you get down to the day's end, you're off the hill. You know, by the time you get to where, you know, again, this would end at Spring and Porter. And the other side would still be there, B3, the whole shopping mall would be, I'm just talking basically from that first part of the entrance, keeping it green, just like everything else is. We'd only be taking, basically, we'd be taking it down, go just across from Bay Mall. Everything from Bay Mall this way, Bay Mall south on 131 would be in our lower zone, and then suddenly we get to Bay Mall, you would be at the higher zone, so. I just want to, you know, that's again. What's what I hope.
Yeah, I tend to agree with Albert on this, but the lighting levels as is would be grandfathered in, correct? And so this would only be in effect for new or revised
Replaced.
or replaced.
Or complaint driven. Correct, for what you said.
Yeah.
Well, that's a question for the planner, or complaint driven.
Or complaint driven.
So if there is light trespass, as there is currently in that neighborhood, will this new ordinance then force those owners to address that
We
issue?
talked about it at last month's meeting, yes, if it's complaint driven. They don't.
Well, we can be assured that there will be complaints.
You know, my concern about the LZ3 and the LZ2. If it were not for 131, I would say I don't have a problem with it, but Sheridan and 131 is a 5-lane intersection. I mean, it's
Well,
busy.
you're not talking about changing the streetlights there. You're just talking about changing the lighting ordinance for the
Yeah, but
properties.
even the properties that are there, the restaurants, I don't know what the lighting levels are for the condo complex over on the other side of the street, but the lighting levels for the retail along 131 need to be appropriately lit for safety and for turning movements.
Right, again, though, retail really doesn't start until you get to Bay Mall.
No, you have Southwest at the corner and you have.
That's not retail, that's a restaurant.
That's restaurant. I mean, that's.
Commercial.
Commercial, that's my
Yeah.
concern.
But if it's okay for example, Killen's, right?
Killen's is in the B3.
Yeah,
B3.
Billings is in, yeah.
Yeah,
What is the area that's across from Arlington Avenue between Boboigne?
That's the park.
Okay.
that's the part we agree.
It's way downhill.
Yeah.
I mean, the lighting zones are not based on anything arbitrary, they're based on the zoning districts.
It would seem to me that along the highway needs to be consistent.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is Kilwins, is it not? That's
Killen's is here,
That red,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
and then this is the
Correct, okay, I see.
this little,
Well, and it is not only 31, but there are a lot of businesses along 31 that actually should belong in the LC3 moderately high ambient lighting. And I think the conflict there can be addressed with the shielding of lights on the property, on the business property, that they can't trespass.
I agree, and I think the curfew for commercial is
Mhm.
important as well.
That curfew's 11 o'clock.
Yeah, and then also the 3,000 max lumens is a big one,
Yeah.
so.
How much different is that?
What's that?
We don't have examples, do we?
That was just 11,000 is a gas station.
Yeah, 11, 16, they're huge. So yeah, 3,000 is gonna be a lot different in terms of what the lighting levels are gonna be in the future.
Like in the article that, I don't know if you had a chance to read it, but the article that John sent out said 3,000 is like lighting your kitchen to work
Right,
in. Or
right.
like in a bathroom when you're standing in front of a mirror.
But that was,
That
that was,
level, right.
that was the heat. That's why
Right.
the colors.
That's the call.
Right, but we can't, but that's our max, even for exterior, for the lumens for this, so it's more like the brightness that you see as the light.
It's unfortunate we don't have any examples of measurements of existing lighting so that we could compare.
Well, I think-
reality now.
If Ted were here, he'd be saying that he was, well, he was going to be recommending that the city buy a knit gun, so you can point it, shoot, and it would tell you what the lumens are. Which, if we do this, we probably need that,
Yeah,
that instrument.
right, Reg?
My concern is that we don't have, or we maybe would be desirable to have some balance with this. Because we've had the dark sky people weigh in on this. It worries me a bit to be first. Why is nobody else first? I guess I don't know if we want to be first on this. But, you know, is there a consultant that can tell us, you know, if you adopt this, your streetlights are out of, you know, are not gonna work. Northman Stadium is out of compliance. You know, this area, and I guess it's there's just enough in here that I don't know. You know, are we creating something that we are putting the city in a difficult position? I'd like to know that half our lighting across the city is okay, you know, because if it's not, then we're really, you know, putting a burden onto the city, not only commercially, but our, you know, our city to have to change a lot.
Yeah, the stadium lighting, like at the football, that comes under a different code. Sports lighting, stadium lighting, stuff like that.
I know it's a different code, but do we meet that code?
Well,
We don't know.
the sports lighting comes under
An exemption.
an exemption under, that's already recognized by the Electrical Illumination Society, the EIS, which they use on construction. That's one of the codes that are used. It's RP6 outdoor sports and recreation areas. That's already used by the electrical and lighting industry today. So,
No, I understand that, but that's not really what I'm saying, is that we're creating an ordinance where we're gonna be complaint responsive. And so if the folks on Hoffman Street or Lindell feel like it's a nuisance, and the stadium lighting doesn't fall within this code, then what do we expect the school to do? You know, I guess I just feel like we're missing some practical analysis of, you know, here's a section of town that works, here's a section of town that doesn't work. It does bother me a little bit that the gas lights downtown are not, you know, and I know that's historic and so we're gonna keep that. But you know, it just, I just wish there were some more practical input rather than this sort of scientific input on the ordinance. You know, a consultant or a commercial lighting expert could give us some opinions rather than just the dark sky, which, you know, just by their name, you know, they want less lighting everywhere, you know.
Just what, Albert?
Point of order, the discussion right now is on, right, the motion on the floor is
Oh, right.
whether to move. I mean, I really appreciate your comments and support some of them. But the motion on the floor at this point is whether to move B3A to the category LZ two from LZ three.
Right, and my comment is related to that, related to both conversations. Every new legislation has the potential of unintended consequences. In this case, I'm very comfortable that this is an excellent opportunity for us to try something new that could be highly beneficial to the city overall. And we will have some issues as a result of it. And some of them we will find are unintended consequences we need to address. But that's for them. I think that the neighborhood that you represent will have the opportunity under this for redress, for light trespass that they haven't had before. And I think that's a significant step forward. And I support, I'm not in favor of the motion, but I do support overall the new language.
Yeah, I think that, just because Dark Sky is introducing this so that we might be the first city to address it. There are many cities who've gone to dark sky policies. Bellingham, Washington, where my son lives, is an example. And it's very functional. And it's nice to see the stars. So, and then you're concerned about it costing the city. Things they won't suddenly have to change them all out today. That would be expensive. But as bulbs fail or streetlights have to be replaced, then they would comply with the new code. So it's not something that happens all at once. So I think the financial concern is, the city can handle making the change over time. John, do you have anything to add?
No, I'm good.
So I think that
Carolyn?
I think it would be in the planning commission's best interest and the city as a whole is to have some points of reference when it goes to the council, so they can understand like, okay, our streetlights are this. You know, Killen's parking lot is this, and I think Killen's gave us their specs for their lighting, so maybe that's an easy thing to look up in their site plan review package, but just so they have something to compare it to. Cause I would imagine they're gonna have the same questions that we all have.
Rob?
Good idea.
Again, if this is adopted, we're not forcing changes on anyone for current. It's for remodeling, for renewal and that. So the step forward, I think, is good. There's some control and it definitely will address some of the concerns in the community comments too.
Yeah.
Give them some opportunity to redress their concerns. So I'm fine.
Max?
The street lighting, I don't think will conform, but the efficacy will continue to go down over the years. I think the life cycle for a bulb like that is like 20 years. So
Wow,
I think they're up there for a while.
that's kind of sad.
Yeah, but any new street repairs that happen, they get new lights and that will all.
Right.
It's like any ordinance. Things are gonna get grandfathered in and then over a period of time, and they start getting converted based on the new regulations. So it's not like everybody's gotta comply at one time. It's gonna be a slow process.
Have we finished the discussion that Albert was requesting? All right,
There's a motion on the table.
I know, so, I guess we vote on it. So let's do roll call.
To be clear,
Yeah,
The
what,
motion-
can you restate the motion?
Motion is to move, the properties within the current B3A to the LZ two, table.
Okay,
Newman,
No.
sorry, Moss,
Yes.
Robson,
no,
Smith,
No,
Wilmot,
no,
Detmer,
No,
Freed,
No,
Fromberg,
No.
Moragan.
No.
right. Motion does not pass.
Thanks for the discussion. One other along that line, how do PUDs then fall? What happens to the white areas on the map?
That's part of the PUD, it's part of the plan, at the time they were
Okay,
putting,
so at the plant, so current PUDs,
they have their own lighting right now.
right, and by use, would they have to, in other words, we have a PUD that is the Kmart Plaza, that would seem like that was, under what we're doing now, would stay
Yes,
very similar to B3. And then the condo development would more be whatever we require for an RM2, because it's very similar use, right? I mean,
yeah,
is that how, I'm just saying that
lower,
right now, it looks to me like there's not any enforcement.
no, they're PUDs, which they're overlaid, so they have their own requirements associated, like Maple Block, they have their own lighting plan.
And the old ones, if the condo development, or if the plaza, the old Kmart Plaza, was gonna redo something, then they would have to submit a lighting plan.
That's correct.
That was within the,
Yeah,
within
comply
the.
with this.
But would we comply with which?
Would be whatever their underlying zone was at the time that they had the PUD. So we'd research that, and if it was a B3, then they would fall on the LZ3, and if it was a different one, LZ2, but we'd research it.
And the good news, like a lot of you said, that we're gonna have a whole lot less light, period.
Yeah.
And I just wanted, it just didn't seem, we're going from green anyway with the residential's at the edge of town. I just thought maybe we could solve it up together. I appreciate all your.
Okay.
But I think I'll take Carolyn's advice in hand. Before we get this, since this gets over to council in January, we'll take a look at some existing projects and determine what the lighting levels are, so we can tell them what the lumen is, so we have a way of visualizing what the.
Yeah. That would be very helpful. Might need a knit gun sooner than later.
That would be it.
Is that
And a
something?
knit gun does not measure lumen, it measures nits.
You will find Ted wandering down.
With a sidearm knit gun.
One last, it's a typo, and I think you guys made a attempt to fix the typo under 3.3. I think you kind of fixed it, but it says Allen, then it says light at night.
Oh, no, under the new thing, I thought it was. Yeah, parentheses.
Right, you do. You don't have all 4 words in parentheses. You only have 3. You have light at night. It should be artificial light at night.
Oh, I see.
I mean, I just, that's just a typo.
Well,
Yeah, good correction.
Yeah.
Reg,
There's under lighting controls, which is letter E. And number 2,
what-
item C.
So what section are you in?
I'm
For lighting
in
control?
so
It'll be like 3.0.
Article 3, second page.
yeah, like
Under lighting requirements, 2.0 general, lighting controls, E.
lighting controls E. C says residential properties with fewer than 5 dwelling units are some sort of exception. I guess I'm not sure what that means. Because it would seem like. I don't know, I guess I'll just ask the question. I don't think that quite makes sense the way it is, but.
So all exterior lighting shall be automatically turned off between dawn and dusk daily with the following exceptions. So that's where it says residential properties are exempt. Which it enables, there's no question that the Christmas tree lights could be on.
Yeah.
All night.
That means residential,
Any exterior.
a 1 family, a 2 family, a
Front
3
porch
family,
lighting,
4
back.
family.
Yes, any exterior lighting.
So if you have more units, then you're not exempt.
And then you have to have lighting controls.
Because
Okay.
that would be like a
That'd be like a
multifamily.
It'd be like a multi-family.
All right.
All right, thank you for that.
Yes, we didn't want to require residentially, everybody to have to get auto lights. That would be a ridiculous expense. So we made residential exempt.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I think just to calm concerns. The big issue with this, I think the big impact is gonna be on commercial property. Because we really didn't have a lot of standards on how to manage commercial lighting in the current ordinance. So people could have to come in with different size of lights, different illumination, and Lisa and I would review the lighting, and we had some standards about foot candles, but we just didn't have enough meat to really, make sure that they were complying with appropriate light standards. Now this gives us something to give them that they can target.
And as we move forward with the zoning ordinances, some of these zones probably be consolidated and changed anyway.
Yeah,
But I mean, we don't know where we're at with that, but with the zoning, once we get to actually looking at zones.
Well, the zoning, whatever the new zoning districts are, then we're gonna have to recalibrate the districts in this.
And at that time, I don't think we want to do it now, but at that time, would overlay rather than zone be more appropriate? Just something to think about for the zoning. What do you guys think about that? Yeah, because then there's some zones that there's such a transitional zone that you could make the overlay specific to where it made more sense. And you could maybe have brighter lighting in the hospital zone, for example. Maybe they needed to get the ambulances in, that's, so.
well, ambulance areas are also allowed to be brighter.
Yeah.
So that has already been considered. Carolyn?
I mean, it brings up a good point, like, should we even be listing the zoning districts under each zone?
Because that's how we map out the LZs.
But couldn't it just be a lighting zone map?
That's arbitrary. At least this way, we're saying this zone goes with that zoning district.
We're changing the districts at some point, then
Right.
you wouldn't have to change this, it would just be
Well, I mean,
for the
but-
map, lighting zones.
but,
In other words, a lighting overlay.
yeah, but that's arbitrary. Then somebody can say, well, why did you draw the line here and not over here? Well, this is all based on the zoning district. It's,
And zoning district based on use.
That's subject.
Yeah.
So, do the zoning districts, will actually have a table that's, well, that'll be in this.
This is be amended.
Okay, any more discussion?
I'm sorry,
Reg.
so Article 3. And this would be under number 8, exceptional uses. And it was talking about when businesses close. Hotels don't really close, they're open all night. I just wonder if that should be,
Okay, exceptional use is what letter or number is that? Number
that's
8?
number 8.
Okay. No. All right, so if Article 3, if you count Article 3, first page general is 1, and then 2 is the distribution through lighting controls. And 3 is the 6, 7, 8 exceptional uses is what we're talking about. Everybody find it? All right,
it says that operations that are open later than 11, they shall shut off their lights within 1 hour of closing. Hotels don't close, so the light stays on.
but it has to go down to the nighttime
Nighttime.
levels.
Reg, you were talking about number 8, correct?
Yes.
So number 8 is specific to these ones have to go to the planning commission.
Yeah.
So it's identifying those are ones that we have to go to the planning commission to get that approval.
So are you saying we should include hotels? Exceptional
Seems
uses?
so, but I mean, if it's covered in another area, then
Under 7, it would,
Under
because
7.
7A,
Yeah, because you don't close. so
they don't
the light-
close, then they could stay on
okay.
past 11.
For example, if you're a tavern and you stay open until 2 o'clock in the morning, then the ordinance says in 1 hour after you close, the lights go down to the night level.
Okay,
Thank you. That's all I have.
anything else?
The suggestion on that 3.3A, that ALAN, that is covered in the definitions. Should we just get rid of that? Quote unquote, or?
Alan is one I've had a hard time adapting to.
Yeah, it's ambient lighting at night.
No, artificial.
Artificial, I was gonna say,
Yeah,
it's artificial.
yeah.
It's just
So,
like, at first it wasn't,
so I kind of like the crutch, even as having read this multiple times. I think Alan probably will become a common thing going forward as more cities control their lighting more. And everybody will know what that is, but
Good call now.
so we have to have a recommendation this. We have to make a recommendation to send this to city council.
that is recommended, yeah.
At least some. There's no further discussion.
All right, so you move to recommend this to the city council. That's your motion, okay?
I second that, but with the inclusion of examples for lighting around town.
Agreed.
All right, so we're gonna have a vote on sending this to the city council along with preparation by doing light examples. All right, roll call vote?
Detmer,
Yes.
Bromberg,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Meridian,
Yes.
Moss,
No.
Newman,
Yes.
Robson,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Wilmot.
Yes.
Right. Then move on to new business, Maple Block, major amendment, construction of carports and garages. And all we have to do tonight is schedule a public hearing for December 17th, 2025.
Was there any, drawings where they're proposing
We're
carports?
seeing that next month's meeting.
So all we're doing is say, yeah, let's put it on next month's agenda.
Yeah, that's all you're saying the public hearing, you're gonna get the full package next week.
Yeah, you'll get it before the meeting, so you'll be.
And the packet will be available at the same time, correct? So
Say it again?
the packet's available to the public at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm looking for a motion to schedule a public hearing for the December 17th, 2025 Planning Commission meeting.
So move.
Second.
And this is for Maple Block major amendment.
Yes.
So we had made the motion, Bob, and Rick seconded it.
No,
Right.
You made the motion.
I second.
You seconded, all right. Can you read back the,
I just want to think.
can you read back the motion?
Schedule a public hearing for the Maple Block.
Yep.
Construction of carports and garages at 1420 Standish Avenue for the December meeting.
Very good. All right, roll call.
Bromberg,
Actually, let's just do aye.
Aye.
Everyone voted for it. All right. Next on the agenda is our meetings for next year, 2026. Any discussion?
I think there should be twice this many.
Well, there may be, there probably will be.
Are you doing something else in January?
He's got an agenda.
Signed on to twice as many.
Yes, you did, but not really, with the amount of meetings we've had this year.
Just this week?
Yeah, right.
Did you guys have a sign meeting?
Yeah. All right, so I need a motion to approve the regular meeting schedule.
I'd like to move to approve the schedule as presented.
Second.
Okay, Albert made the motion. Carolyn seconds to approve the meeting times. All in favor?
Aye.
Everyone voted aye. All right, now. On the zoning ordinance updates, discussion results of the community character survey. So John, you wanna?
I'd like to kick it off. I think we just need to have a general discussion. We ended up with 292 responses. I thought they were fairly distributed through the city with the exception of Ward 4, where we didn't have as many. Ward 1, 2, and 3 had a pretty good distribution. I ran all the data through AI just to do summaries, and really, when you take a look at the survey, it's pretty tight. I mean, there's not a lot of variance. People want walkable, they want less traffic, they want greater code enforcement. Primarily want two-story buildings. The interesting thing I found was that people actually are, when we asked them to determine lot coverage, their lot coverage was between 50 and 60% of the lot. Currently, I think we have 30 or 35, so people were like, you know, if I want to have a garage or an ADU or a house, I'm willing to, you know, increase the lot coverage. And depending on the ward, some wards don't have underground utilities as much as others, so people were saying we'd like to have underground utilities. They obviously prefer the sidewalks. People are big on architectural compatibility setbacks. They want visual harmony and they want the view sheds protected. So,
They don't want the county parking in front of their house.
and I think from some of the questions that we asked, like parking, people do prefer that we have parking regulations rather than just let businesses determine what their parking needs are. So I did that summary, and then I also prepared another one on the open-ended questions that I gave you last week or whenever, and then I think Shane also sent this out to City Council. And this is the responses by open-ended question, and you can see that there's just a lot of common themes that run through all of these. In terms of our feedback relative to standards, people would, if we're gonna have a palette of design standards, their focus was on having higher standards for obviously industrial commercial properties, not necessarily residential, even though comments were, we really need to have an integrated or cohesive design throughout the community. So I thought it was, I thought the responses were pretty tight. I didn't hear what you all had to say, but you know, I didn't think there was a lot of variance at all.
The one that was, to me, the most interesting of variable was the setbacks. We had setbacks from 0 to 100. And our setbacks currently are 25. And I did kind of just a little analysis, like how many people had setbacks higher than 25, how many was lower than 25, and how many were at 25. And they were very close to, people actually wanted more setback, but all the comments are, I want room to do more of my lot. So I like to triangulate when I see survey stuff where I see it more than one. The other question that also surprised me a little bit was on the housing character, I think was question 13. The ADUs, because we look at the comments, they're either they want ADUs or they don't want ADUs. There was hardly anything in between. You know, so I want to do an ADU and I want to do this and this, or I don't want ADUs. And yet the survey was a fairly high percentage that liked the character of the ADU. My question was, on the survey, there's pictures. And I believe this is the bottom right, the last picture was a small house. I don't have the survey because I did looked at it electronically, but I don't think you can look at it anymore. Was that ever labeled as an ADU? So the youth, do the respondent says a house that looked like that would be okay. I mean, there's a house on Washington Street, a little blue house that's cuter than you. Not Washington, Howard Street, between Washington and Jennings. Little blue house, looks a lot like that. It's not ADU, it's a house. So to say that the ninth picture was people saying they want an ADU, or were they saying they were okay with the character of that house? You understand my
And
question?
it was a character, that was a visual survey.
Right, exactly. But to label that as an ADU was arbitrary. in a way.
Well, you know, in the survey underneath it, we had ADU
Or
marked.
did we? Okay. I didn't remember.
But, you know, it's a visualization. And, you know, that small house rated fairly
That's
high,
what, that's, I did,
50,
I sent
it was number 2 on the list. Neo-traditional single family was number 1, ADUs were number 2.
Right.
I was also interested that many people didn't see it, but did not have a problem with cottage courts or cottages.
And it's all 2-story or less. And 2-story in our current code is 25 feet.
Yes.
So 2.5 story, the current code, 2.5 story is 25 feet, so. Under section 1600s. So they don't want real tall houses.
Harley.
I'm sorry to say, I missed this. I don't know whether it was emailed to me or not, but I got it tonight. And I've been looking, was one of the things I was gonna ask for was an overview of categorization, if you will, of the open-ended.
Yeah, that's what that is.
So I haven't had a chance to,
We all just
absorb
got
it.
it, we just got it.
But I was looking forward to that. It was gonna be one of the things that I wanted to ask, because one of the things I'd like to do with it is I'd like to compare it with action items in the Living Petoskey plan to see what may stand out as new and different, incredibly new and different of significance between the commentary from the survey and the Living Petoskey, which hopefully, well, in some format, Living Petoskey will need to be addressed next year. So it would be helpful to know what the relevancy of this commentary is to the Living Petoskey. The second thing I wanted to ask is, I'd like to see the data specifically for Ward 2. And I think I think each of the council people would be interested in seeing the data for their ward separate from the city. And a commentary like this as well would be helpful to help digest that data on a ward by ward basis.
Do we have population of wards? I mean, so do we have residential population of a ward? So our, Ward 3 was a small portion of that survey. But when we think of Ward 3, how much in Ward 3 is commercial and not residential? There's a huge hospital inside there. There's hotels, there's businesses, there's Bay Harbor, which a lot of people in Bay Harbor are not full-time residents at least. And so we had, I was surprised that we were a small percentage, but then I didn't know what percent of Ward 3 people responded. And I don't know if that's anything we could drill
It's gonna
down
be awful
on.
tough.
So we don't.
The census tracts don't match up with the ward lines, and we're small enough that we don't have block group data, so.
Yeah.
It's really tough to get an
What you
accurate.
do have is voter.
Registration.
Right.
And
So you could compare-
that's as good a barometer as
It's
that.
probably good, yeah, because we could compare, we have less registered voters, more registered voters.
Yeah, in Ward 3, my question would be, and there's no way of knowing, is how many of the respondents were Bay Harbor versus actual Ward 3.
That, we do know how many Bay Harbor, because that was.
Well, that's true. If they voluntarily said that they were.
So. Hey, I can run the data by ward for the council. That's not a big deal. We can filter that out. Where do you want to go with this stuff? We got to start getting into the nuts and bolts. Ted, I haven't heard from you. You have any
Ted,
comments?
do you want to come up here and be part of this?
What were you specifically like?
Well, do you have any comments on the results of the zoning survey?
No, I don't think so. I think you've got the results tabulated well. Don't have much more to say.
The only statistic.
Yeah, I think it was a great exercise.
It
was a good exercise. The process.
I just make a comment on one point I thought was kind of interesting. There seemed to be a lot of criticism of the Norway maples.
Yeah.
So maybe we should rethink that when we're planting trees.
I'm not an arborist. What's the difference?
Criticism city is like an arborist.
The Norway maple.
Is us right now.
Oh, yeah.
The Norway maple, they're not.
They're not native.
It's not a native maple tree.
And they're a real dark
Right.
burgundy color leaf. And they're prone to a fungus that makes black spots on the leaves. They're really beautiful if you have one surrounded by green. It's a nice contrast. But they were getting carried away and starting to fill in with all Norway maples. So I think that's when people started noticing and saying they didn't want that many.
Unfortunately, they did a different maple some years ago. I know it's called fire maple. I had a couple and the Norways are nice because they grow slow.
Mm.
This other one, it's on some of the medium trees on Maple, I think. It sends these, I've got some in my property, arms that just grow really fast out long and then they break off. The bark is split on them, so whatever that tree is, it didn't work out.
On Mackinac Island, they're trying to cut and remove all the Norway maples. I don't know how extensive they are.
You know why?
Well, because they're not native.
God.
So is that kind of something we can recommend to city managers in the future? That it,
When
New
street trees are
tree,
planted,
yeah.
they're away from the road, right?
But we have something in the news zone about
Having
about going.
native tree, native.
trees.
Yeah.
That's good, so.
I think a really good comment, when I read through them, was on page 59 of the survey results in the packet. It was comment number 95 on page 59. And if you read that, whoever wrote that, had a really good summary of kind of what the community should be about. I thought, when I read through these all, I mean, they were all good comments, but this one in particular, somebody had, what number?
Number 9, page 59, number 95,
Mine's on page 60, 99.
95.
Comment number 95.
Oh, yeah.
They talked about general density, which is a term that's being used now in terms of the introduction of different housing typologies in the neighborhood that don't overwhelm scale. But it's got some good comments about architectural design and what's good and what's bad. I thought it was pretty interesting comment.
That was super, the number of people that felt the views of the bay. And that were important and height of buildings. Height restrictions. Height restrictions were important about that. Because I've heard, people in different leadership positions in the city say, well, our 25-foot height restriction is ridiculous. Well, it would be for a lot of flatland cities, but we're not a flatland city. We're a city that's up on a hill. And if you look at how many people appreciated the view, I thought that was important. Another one that I thought was, question 11, I thought was interesting. Which is
So DFP.
page 24 on my packet. Page
24.
Number 11.
Yeah, question number 11. And is there something you would like to do that you wouldn't be able to do because of the zoning? And what I did is I circled all the questions that were yes, or the comment was, I had something that I wanted, someone didn't say yes, they just wrote something they want to do. And that ended up being 54 of the 200 responses, or around 22-23% of people had an issue with our current zoning. The rest of them didn't. Now, they may not, that if you correlate that also with the question on those people that had experience with zoning, 27% of us had experience with, or 22% had experience with zoning. So we're doing a lot of things to change the zoning. I just want to be careful that if there's not an issue, we're not doing issues just because. The people, you look at what some of their concerns are, we've addressed it. We have an ADU ordinance now. Maybe they don't like it and that could be modified, but we have an ADU ordinance. They have a lot of things that, you know, we're looking at setbacks and those types of things, but people setbacks, that's one I would like to see almost a statistical. You know, I had to crunch numbers all the time for when I see something with the standard deviations on that question, it makes no sense at all. The setback question, because it tells you that people aren't informed, I think is what that question told you.
One thing comes to mind is people talk about crunching numbers, don't go too far. Don't pretend you're doing something scientific by getting percentages
Right.
on a survey like this.
Because it's not statistical.
It's not. You don't know the sample how it, you'd have to do far more statistics.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
So
To extend it.
good feedback, but don't.
Yeah.
What the standard deviation to me on that question says is they don't understand
Right.
setbacks.
Exactly. I don't think people understood.
Right.
Which leads me to my next point, you're asking about next steps. The next, what's coming to the planning commission now is the hard stuff. The very specific stuff, including collapse of zoning, potential collapse or consolidation of zones. The setbacks, density, heights. The really hard core stuff, some of which is very difficult to understand conceptually. Your example routinely is density. People don't understand the concept. And if they don't understand the concept, they really can't make an educated contribution to the conversation. Only an emotional contribution to the conversation, which is not helpful to them or us. So how do we address that? Education is necessary at this point to get everybody on the same page with these hardcore issues.
I mean, you know, I looked at the survey beforehand, and I thought it was absolutely fine, so I'm not trying to criticize when you see the results. Would have been in some of those questions. Our current setbacks for residential is, you know.
You're right, but question 14 and 15 are the only two that address any of these hardcore issues.
Yeah.
There were some responses related to density, but they didn't know what they were talking about. So
yeah, they didn't have a standard to look at. I think we didn't want to give them.
We didn't want to go there.
We didn't want to go there, and I was.
This was all about character.
Right.
Not about the hardcore stuff. So the question is, and it's a valid one, John, how do we get our arms around the hardcore stuff now?
You have to prepare something, they present, they have them react.
Well, and you have to educate them as to the concepts too.
Right, I think, John, like you said, it's not just a verbal discussion, there's pick examples. Yeah.
Would it be feasible, possible to include an education session in each planning commission? Maybe a 5 or 10 minute. This is the topic, density, of this meeting. This is the topic of this meeting. ADUs or education regarding the zoning that would help answer these questions so they could see what it is. And I like your description, Ted, that it be visual rather than just.
Well,
is that?
Yeah, and you could take it a step further, not just to have for presentation purposes here, but perhaps the planner could arrange to have, like on the easels, like you do for the other presentations, some graphic representation that helps people understand the concept of density, of setback, and because, you know, if you go straight into the charts that show the different setbacks we have in the different zoning districts and the different circumstances, you're just going to baffle everybody.
You know, I agree. And it's got to be done from that perspective of public education.
Yes,
Starting at ground
I believe
zero.
that to be the case.
There's no understanding.
Right.
And build it up from there.
And even with what John's told, I've been surprised that where we are and aren't with density. I grew up on Harvey Street. My mom's lot was 48 feet wide. It wasn't even 50 because the neighbors borrowed 2 feet for the driveway. Somehow it was, and it's not very deep.
The lot.
The lot, yeah, Harvey Street. I don't think that lot is 50 by 75. Her house takes up the whole lot in the garage, and there's only a little bit left. So these were written, I think over the years, if we're gonna make a new R1, we ought to have it like this. And if we're gonna make a new R2, we ought to have it like this. Part of me says, shouldn't we go back and look at what is, talk about character. What is the density in that historic district from Bay Street to Michigan Street? I think the lot coverage is pretty high. You know, I think we're over 30%. It's just my perception of, you know, Grove Street, State Street. You know, so maybe, and that was a lot of the complaints in this thing. I've got a house on, I'm imagining, because we didn't know where they were. But if you had a house on Harvey Street or whatever, and you wanted to make it a double car garage, you probably couldn't. You know, and yet those lots have been that way forever. So, you know, should we look at where are we really with density and setbacks in the old neighborhoods?
Well, that's kind of what we're gonna do in this next phase. Is
Okay, because
determine.
look at, and then here's where we are. Is there anything wrong with where we are? And so we need to make those those lot coverages higher. Fine. And then if you look at a neighborhood like your neighborhood, Charlie, or it's in our neighborhood in Spruce Street, in the newer, probably fifties on houses, they were ranch houses, they were bigger lots, open lots, and they may only need what I heard a lot in the survey was we really want to keep the character of Petoskey the way it is. I mean, if I took one question, that's almost what that other question 95 that you pointed out. So where are we? Not where should we be, but where are we? And then where should we be?
But how do you quantify that?
Can't we figure out lot density? Can't we figure out?
For an individual lot, you
Right.
certainly can, but how can you generalize a ward or a zoning district?
Well, kind of block by
Well,
block.
yeah, I was thinking block by block, but
I mean, you know, there's like, where I live on Bay Street, it's an R1 district. And over on Rose Street, the next street to the north, those are zone R1. Well, the way the lots are fitted in there, it really should be R2. You know, because of the setback requirements and everything.
but
I just, if I could make a comment, we'll get in discussions, it seems to me, where we'll discuss what the optimum lot size setback could be and have long discussions and do surveys, which is nice, but it appears to me that most of Petoskey is built out. So,
right, that's what I'm saying. That's why.
so I don't know exactly what we're talking about.
Oh, I just want to have the zoning district
Fit-
fit the character.
Right.
What's already
Right.
there.
That's what,
As else.
We talked a lot about that, yeah.
and so, I mean, when you do the GIS surveys, you can look, if you go into GIS, it'd be a lot of work, but if you go to the GIS, you could look, I could look at my house and see how big my lot is and what percent is covered, I believe.
Well, you're talking about coverage, not density.
coverage.
Right, but coverage also includes its density, does it not?
Pardon?
The coverage includes.
An aspect of it, yeah.
An aspect of it.
So Carolyn?
John, how do you recommend we move forward?
Well, I'm kind of picking up the different conversations. I mean, we talked about this at the very beginning when you all went out with your maps and you took a look at the neighborhoods, and most of you said there was really no apparent difference between a couple of the residential districts. They all kind of looked the same. I agree with Ted. The city is pretty much built out. The code needs to reflect what the historical development pattern is. So that's where I've always come from, rather than try to take a code, a suburban code, and retrofit it to a community like Petoskey. It's not gonna work. The zoning districts need to reflect what the development patterns are in the community. Now, we could try to figure that out, and we can figure it out, but it's not gonna be a lot by lot analysis.
John, is it less of a problem? Let's say you wanted to combine some districts, R1s and R2s. But a lot of your rules and regulations, like let's say front yard setback, had to do with the prevailing average, whatever,
Right.
on the block. So then there'd be maybe a different residential district than we have now, but a lot of the the specifics about what could happen on that lot would be governed by the existing build out of what's there.
Right.
So
And,
maybe that mitigates a lot of the.
Well, that's a good point, because in some communities, the front yard setback is not a prescriptive number. It's based on the average of the block.
That's what ours is right now.
So you may have some of this going on, but everybody's not built like if you go down to like Berkeley, Michigan, which was a 1950, 60 style community, every single house is built 25 feet from the right of way. Okay? In communities like this, you're gonna have variable setbacks, so why not just have the average of the block?
right,
I've always mentioned to you guys, I don't know where 35-foot rear yard setback came from. It seems to be prevalent all over the country. I don't know.
Yeah, it just came
that number.
from early seventies era zoning. It was just something that, one of those planning firms
Came up with 35 feet.
after World War II,
Yeah.
and it was applied
Applied
universally, yeah.
Side yard setbacks today are more of a function of meeting the fire code. You gotta have at least a 10-foot separation unless you have a 2-hour fire rating. So some of this stuff is starting to, other codes are starting to impact what the design parameters are. Couple of communities that want to encourage walkability will allow the front yard, will allow the front porch if it's not enclosed. If it's an open historic front porch, they'll allow it to extend into the front yard setback a few feet in order to encourage that kind of neighborhood context. But I think in terms of educating the community would be to come up with a series of graphics and have an open house and ask people like we did for the winter sports park. We didn't ask them what they liked. We asked them what they didn't like.
Right.
And they told us what they didn't like, and that helped form the last final design of the plan. So, I mean, you could do the same thing on the zoning, kind of create some conceptual drawings that show setback, height, density, all that good stuff, and ask people, what don't you like about this? And then have them tell us.
I felt like that webinar you sent us, it was the Michigan Housing.
Yeah.
The
Michigan Historic.
graphics,
Yeah.
yeah, the graphics that they showed were really helpful. They described like taking a typical 4-square single family, how you can change it into a duplex. And then they also talked about the gentle density, which was also a comment that they referred to, like. That was some of those, if you guys haven't watched that webinar, I highly recommend it. But I think some graphics like that for.
Because some of the communities now are going to what is referred to as the pattern books.
Yep.
Okay, pattern books were used, they started making their way into urban design back in the 90s with PUDs. Even more so after the turn of the century with the Congress of New Urbanism, the new developments, basically, it wasn't just a PUD, you were given a design or a pattern book and you had to select your house from the pattern book so everybody had the same neighborhood context. But the Michigan Municipal League has come up with pattern books based on the old housing types, based on the Sears catalog.
Webinar?
What's that?
Did you participate in the pattern webinar last week?
I reviewed it.
It was an excellent webinar.
Yeah.
And the pattern books, that's something I think that the planning commission needs to take a look at for certain selective situations coming forward, because these are pre-approved plans with lots of variations, so you can customize them and make them look different, but you can use them by right. You don't, just.
They're by right.
Yeah, and they're free. And so that really reduces the cost of your development of that parcel.
Even the ADU plans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that was excellent. I'm glad you brought it up because that's something I think that could be a significant benefit.
I would even take it a step further. If you really want to go down that road, because you're a built community, people have a certain idea of what the character of the community is. I could envision in the future, Petoskey has its own pattern books that's designed by its own local architects.
Absolutely.
That fit in with the character, saying here's 8 different housing styles or variations, and they're all by right. They've already been pre-approved by Emmett County Construction, and pick one and have at it. But you can get it refined almost to the community now, and that's kind of where. But I'm thinking that's what the proposed code should really encourage is amplifying the historical development pattern of the community, not trying to retrofit something else from another community somewhere else. That's why when we started this process, we wanted to reserve Article 2 and 3 at the end, because that's where the heavy lift is in terms of really what deciding this stuff.
And I really like the concept that we are built out. And for that part of the city that's already built, and people are happy with the character, let's keep the restrictions to that area like it is. So, like, because I think there are houses there that are neighborhoods in which we are, the setbacks in the front and back are a lot less than that's out here. So if you had to rebuild some of these houses, people would have a hard time rebuilding. You know, so that's what was my point, is that we need to look at that. And at the same time, when we look at the newer parts of the city, I'm thinking probably from Lindell south on the east side of the city, up in that whole neighborhood, those are all ranches. Our neighborhood, the neighborhood is up just between the nursing home and Greenwood. Those are all more modern, and they are houses that are taking up a smaller percentage of their lots, and also we keep those characters the same too. So that's what my thought is still, is we need to look at keeping what is, and that's gonna solve a lot of these people's negative thing. I can't move my porch out 2 feet. Why? Well, because, but you know, if it's allowed, then we could do that.
We are built out, but that doesn't reflect the fact that lots of people, there's a continuing need for people to want to expand.
Right.
And add to and change, or, you know, gain a garage or double the width of a
My
garage.
point exactly.
And John, that's a question I have. So like, if you take my neighborhood, my garage has 0 setback. It's probably from 1920. It's not very big. It's a single car garage. But anyway, you know, when you buy in these neighborhoods, what's there is there, and you bought your house and you're fine with it. Most people, I think, because they buy the house. But but if you said, well, there's not every garage, but some garages have 0 setbacks. So we'll just say that 0 setbacks okay for garages. But yet, as Rick's pointing out, people are going to do more and more things that might be more objectionable. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people think a building, the neighbor's building shouldn't be right on the lot line. It should be off a little. So how do you kind of mesh those two? Like, sometimes existing is there, but it's maybe, I would have to say, maybe not quite ideal.
Right, so you have to live with that, and it has an impact on the neighbor's ability to do what they might want.
Right.
In the end.
Right.
Well, you might have an old garage, you know, that's on the lot line. Maybe you want to make it better. Maybe you want to tear down that garage and put a second story on it, or make it better somehow. But you can't do that. You know,
Now you can, yeah.
and you know, maybe that's an area that you consider, you know, a change, or
You should be able, in my opinion, that's part of the history and the character of the community. And if it's there now, you should be able, if you want to tear it down and replicate the footprint, you should be allowed to do it without
Maybe Regis saying,
grandfathered. So to
like,
speak.
what if though I took my garage, I don't have quite space, but what if I said, well, I've got 0 setback now? Maybe I'll make that a 2-stall garage. The impact on the neighbor is much greater than my little.
Why, you went 2 feet into there?
well, how are you gonna make
How
it?
does the impact
You
greater?
know, I mean, just the wall facing into my garage with 0 setback for 1 story. If it's 2-story, it's a much bigger. It's a different feel, different character.
Now, I think the setback too, you have to stay within the fire code. So you may have to keep when somebody rebuilds.
But that's what people don't necessarily understand, you know, they like, can I just make it better, you
Yeah,
know?
it's on my.
We have, I know, a lot of setbacks on our side lots than what we had in Kalamazoo. I can't believe how close I can build a storage building. In Kalamazoo, I couldn't, I had to have it, there was a lot bigger, it was like 15 feet on every side and 35 feet back, so 35 is enormous. But in our
That
neighborhood,
that was probably an ordinance that came, you know, from.
Was that a bigger lot or?
early
It was
50s.
about the same as mine. That was pie shaped.
Well, in my opinion, next steps, it would be to ask the planner to develop a list of major concepts for these two sections that can be visually described, educationally described. But in addition, there are some unique characteristics that we've just been talking about, like the old carriage houses on the alleys and that kind of thing, that you may also want to pick out as examples of specific issues that need to be addressed. And so that everybody can get their arms around them.
Can do. John, isn't your next kind of then, does it make sense to combine some districts? Isn't that what we are?
Yeah, we need, I don't say combine just for the sake of combining, but some of the districts that we have
Right.
and where they're located, and you walk between neighborhoods, there's really no differentiation. You know, the commercial districts, you know, it's, to me, you put them into two buckets, one that's vehicular oriented, one that's pedestrian oriented. You know, you don't need to have 5 or 6 different commercial districts, because in one district, you may be allowing a different use than in another one. So we can start, you know, I can start throwing out ideas to you, but you know, you need to kind of give me, like you are tonight, give me some good feedback.
Well, some of the commercials intertwined in a neighborhood and some of it's not quite, maybe backs up to a neighborhood, but it's different. I think that's some of the difference in the rules too.
The bigger question to me is, should some whole zoning districts kind of be reassigned to a different district?
Mhm.
You know, you think of the whole, the west side, on the other side of the river. You know, it's all zoned multifamily,
Right.
but largely it's all single family houses. I mean,
Right.
maybe there's apartments and duplexes and things like that, but the character of the neighborhood is single family houses.
Well, but you want to be careful not to recategorize it as single family, because those duplexes are still a key
Well,
element.
no, what you want to do is have a code that says this is a certain type of neighborhood, and within that neighborhood, you can have duplexes and you
Right.
can have an
If-
apartment
if it
as
was
long
there.
as they meet the dimensional standards. So that, you know, that becomes kind of like a, you know, that's a very traditional type of a neighborhood where you have the ability to have multi-generational families living in it. And, you know, you have a duplex here, you know, but I think, I know where
But
Rick.
as illustrated vividly in the answers to the questionnaire, duplexes, triplexes and quadplexes are a flashpoint.
Well, triplexes and quads.
They're of great concern
You're already allowed.
to people in single family homes.
You're already allowed duplexes.
I understand, but
Is that?
Triplexes and quadplexes were the ones that went on the survey.
which again is some visual explanation. Those pattern books, that webinar, it had duplexes and triplexes. You couldn't tell they were duplexes and
Right.
triplexes. You looked at them, they looked just the same as a regular house.
It's perfect for a new build. I agree with you, it's perfect. When I also drive past Jackson and Ingalls and every day, and there are houses that were converted years ago from nice, large, what were doctor's homes. When I was a wee little kid, that was the first Hill was Jackson Street. And those big doctor's homes were converted into quadplexes and apartments. And I tell you, they look terrible. And again, it goes back to we have really strong standards on what we want in our new apartments and we need enforcement or a code too. I think if we're gonna put quadplexes in, then we need a rental code.
It's nothing that we haven't talked about, but you've seen in the comments where people are really concerned about lack of code enforcement.
Right, exactly.
And people are saying we need to have rental code enforcement.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Now, it's unfortunate that somebody takes a big, large historic home and they put in 2 units, and then over a period of time, it looks degraded primarily because it's an investment property and the people aren't reinvesting in it.
Right.
But that's not because of zoning, that's because of the lack of enforcement. So,
I guess my only concern is without a strong rental code, a rental inspection code, then past behavior is good, is a pretty good predictor of future behavior. And, you know,
you can't use zoning to make people,
right.
maintain their property. That's the enforcement part.
I guess my point is both these things have to happen at the same
They
time.
have, well, they have to, yeah, they have to.
City council have got.
We did come up with a zoning ordinance and the city council doesn't want to.
Rental.
I'm sorry, rental ordinance.
Well, it's coming back to them. Yeah, my concern was, how do I, how do I facilitate that? Because it requires a lot more inspections.
Oh, yeah.
And I currently don't have the staff to facilitate that. Now, we can do some contracting, some of those inspections out, but we have a hard enough time keeping up with short-term rental inspections. And then when you add 1,000 rentals to that, that's a significant lift. So I don't want to set us up for failure either.
Okay.
So I certainly see the value in having that ordinance. I think it's much needed. But I also need to be able to facilitate that ordinance and making sure we're following our own ordinance and how often we have to inspect. So certainly that's going to come back to the city council, hopefully early in 26, once we get reseated. So that's on our list for sure.
So I'll start putting some stuff together for you to react to. Okay.
Thank you.
And then we'll have when we get enough material, we'll have a community open house like we allow people to come in and tell us what they like or don't like.
All right. Commissioner comments? Rob?
So the proposed walkway between the loft apartments and like Piper, what used to be Parker Motor Freight.
Yeah, you talk about there anyway.
That's a green one.
Yeah, I've noticed there's more and more car tracks
Oh,
going down through there off of Piper, off that parking lot.
People take.
Construction related or?
No, there are people going out.
It's just people are driving instead of going back out onto the street.
Something about
They're
that.
just, they're just cutting, I don't know if trees, something needs to be added to keep people from
cutting through.
cutting through on through the, what's seeded now.
They had just put down the mesh, the seed, and it wasn't construction traffic. It was
It's
more than one car came out of Elton Parker. Left track.
It had a little too much cider.
Yeah. Cider, I don't know.
shortest distance between 2 points.
A series of tax strips for bringing that in.
Just don't want that to come out.
Sure.
My way.
Yep.
All right, any other commissioner comments?
One other thing, does the city maintain the vertical space above sidewalks? From hedges that have overgrown from property, that it's like in Grove Street,
It's supposed to be the homeowner's responsibility.
one that's been that way for years and years.
So it can be technically considered.
Unless it's a tree in the greenway.
It's hedges and things like that that have
On the
overgrown.
homeowner's side.
No, it's not. You're talking over the sidewalk.
Yeah. It's literally 25% of the sidewalk now.
You had mentioned that to me previously and I couldn't, I tried to pay attention when I drove that area. So maybe you can tell me exactly.
Between Howard and Walker. But that's not the only place. There's also new city trees that have been planted, that the branches are at head level.
Yeah.
There's some tendencies needed.
Under updates next month, you're gonna have in front of you the major amendment to Maple Block and it won't be a review, but we're gonna be getting, we'll be getting a request for a amendment to the PUD for Crestview for U-Haul is still consistent. I know, and they're gonna submit a formal application for a PUD. Will that
Have
be-
they still thinking of the outdoor
No,
units?
at this point, no.
Okay, that's close.
So, but that will be just to schedule a public hearing for January, but that is still, that'll be coming before you guys.
We heard it from you in Jimmy John's.
They've submitted their final plans. We have an internal development review on Friday. We'll see where they're at.
On Jimmy John's, since we said right out.
Yes.
only, a lot of times when you have a right out only, you actually have curves.
Yes,
That will be in there.
Yes.
So they, okay, the horses do it right out.
we're gonna force them.
Perfect.
Well, for people that follow the curve.
What's going on, Rich?
Anything going on with the family videos? That must have been expired by now.
It has.
Part of the hope with Jimmy John's was a response from the clinic to address some landscaping, if I remember correctly. Has there been any movement there?
We talked to Jimmy John's about pushing some of their landscaping towards that direction.
Yeah, I mean, didn't we
Yeah,
feel?
we have to talk,
Yes.
we have to talk to them about it.
They were going to, we were supposed to approach the owner of the urgent care to continue the landscaping that they didn't do in the first place.
Well, there is landscaping there now. I'm not sure. if
Yeah,
it
But
needs-
not the highest, not the quality that was required. And farm.
All right, I call this meeting adjourned at 7:36 p.m.
Thanks, everybody.